What do you mean by leadership? Generally, if in a layman's term, if you talk about leadership, leadership is to be a leader. The leader has to be a role model. If that person is passive in lifestyle and that person is not active, so if the team is in a situation of losing the match, or if team is planning something, team members itself will start fighting among each other. Some problems will happen in the dressing room. So that combination of deadly and dangerous at the same time, more exciting and adrenaline kicking, is called as adventure sports. Hello all, my name is Rohit. I take physical education on behalf of prep school by Vidhyaashram. In today's class, we will study about physical activity and leadership training. So without wasting much time, let's get into the session overview and try to understand what all things we'll be covering in this chapter and in this session. So first, we'll start out by understanding the definition of leadership. Then we'll look into qualities of a leader. Then we'll study about role of a leader. Then we'll see creating leaders through physical education. Then we'll study about meaning of adventure sports. Then we will see objectives of adventure sports, types of adventure sports, types of trekking, and finally we will see safety measures to prevent any kind of sports injury. Now, having said that, let's jump into our first topic, that is defining leadership. What do you mean by leadership? Generally, if in a layman's term, if you talk about leadership, leadership is to lead a whole group to a particular goal. But more in a formal format, more in a definition format, according to a scholar named as Montgomery, he states that a person's capacity to rally men and women towards a common purpose or common goal is called as leadership. So how do you define leadership? According to Montgomery, the capacity of an individual to rally men and women toward a common goal or purpose is called as leadership. Okay? So the capacity and the will of a person to lead the whole group or crew towards a common goal is called as leadership. Okay, so I hope you understood the definition and the meaning of leadership. Having said that, let's move on to our next topic, that is the qualities of a leader. What all qualities, what all soft skills and hard skills a leader should have. First is, he should be energetic. To be a leader, the leader has to be a role model. If that person is passive in lifestyle and that person is not active, then the team also will feel dull. Okay, the team also will become dull. So it's important for a leader to stay more active and more fit and energetic. Second is friendliness and affection. That means the team leader has to show more friendliness and he should be more frank. He should be more involved with the team to make the whole team much better, to spread the positive vibe among the team and to make the whole unit stronger. That's important for the team leader to have this quality of friendliness and affection and to be frank and open with the team. Next is decisiveness. That means leader in the field of physical education should be able to take decisions very quickly. Third quality of a leader is technically skilled. That person who is the leader in the physical education field, whichever team he's a captain of or whichever team is he leading, he should be himself technically skilled on that particular field to be a proper leader or to set a bar or to set a benchmark or a role for others to follow. Okay, so that's one important quality a leader should have. Second is, the leader should be more intelligent. Next is, the leader should be more intelligent. The leader should have teaching skills. Obviously, when the leader wants to explain the strategy, or if the leader wants to teach the team members something, or to provide that person's wisdom, or to share something, or to teach different skills, or to lead the team, that person or the leader should have the capacity to teach well. So the teaching skill of the leader should be very good. Next is creative. The leader should be creative in nature. Next is interest in research. So the leader has to keep himself updated and he has to keep himself up to date regarding the new changes and regulations of whatever field is he working on. Suppose if he's a cricket captain or if he's a cricket coach, he has to know about the latest rules and regulation and the policies in that field. Next is, the leader should have a good health. He should set fitness benchmarks for others to follow. If the leader itself is not well fit, the other team members also will not feel like to maintain the health, because the leader itself is a role model. So the leader itself is the face of the team, and if the leader itself is not active and is itself not fit, then the teammates also will not feel like to maintain the health. That is the ninth quality of a good leader. Next is dedication and determination. The leader should have the dedication and determination to lead the whole team to greater heights, to lead the whole team to success. That determination and willpower in the leader should be there. Next, high motor capacity. Motor capacity is the ability of a person to move. So the motor capacity of the leader has to be very sharp and very good. Next is respect for other people. He should be respecting his juniors. He should be able to respect everybody. He should be able to take advices from everybody. He should not have any kind of egoistic problems. So that's one another quality of a leader. Next is, he should be socially well. He should be interactive proactive in nature. He should involve everybody in the team for different kind of events or different kind of things to improve the team spirit and team bond. Next is logical decision making. That means on field, whenever it is required to strategize certain thing and whenever it is required to take a logical decision, the leader should be able to do that quickly without any kind of problem. Next is morality and loyalty. That means a leader should have proper moral skills and he should be loyal to the country and to the team for which he is playing or which he is representing. That is one another quality that is required to be a leader. Next is good communicator. The leader should have proper communication skills. That person should not face any kind of trouble communicating with his team member or to others in that instance. Okay, so these were some of the qualities of leader. There are multiple other soft, small, little, minute qualities that are there, but for the majority of part, this will cover all of that. Okay, so having said that, hoping you understood the various qualities of the leader, let's move on to the next topic of the chapter, that is role of a leader. What is the role of the leader? Now don't get confused between the qualities and role. Qualities are more like an eligibility to be a leader. Role is once you become a leader, what all things you have to do, what all are your responsibilities. Okay, first is structuring the situation. So if the team is in a situation of losing the match, or if team is planning something, then the proper structuring of the team, the proper lineup and the proper strategizing, all that thing has to be done by the leader. That's the first role. Second role is controlling group behavior. Now many times it may happen that you may have feud in between the group, or team members itself will start fighting among each other. Some problems will happen in the dressing room. All those things happen in cricket and many other sports also. So to avoid that thing, leader has to step forward and he has to facilitate that issue and he has to make sure that it doesn't happen. He has to sort that out. So that's one another role of a leader. Third is speaking of the group. He is the representative of the group. So whatever he speaks, he is representing the whole group. He is the voice of the group. So to the media or to anybody he is speaking or to anybody he is telling something, he is representing the whole team. So whichever group here we are talking about, whether it's a football team or cricket team, the captain of the team is the face of that. So that person, the leader, should be able to represent the whole team, and whatever he say will reflect on the other team members. That means whatever he say is a reflection of whatever the team is having or whatever angle the team is thinking. So that has to be kept in mind, and that is one another role of the leader. Fourth is planning for the group. The planning for the group has to be properly done. Now planning, when you talk about that, it could be a match plan, it could be the lineup plan, it could be any sort of plan that is happening in the team. So all that planning part also has to be headed by the team leader itself, that is the captain of the team or the coach of the team. Next is execution of the plan. While execution of those plan which was planned earlier, that execution, in order to go smooth, it's important for the lead to step forward and make sure everything is going smooth. Next is leader as a representative. Like I said, this is the same, almost same as speaking for the group. You can see both of these points are interlinked together. That means representing the whole team. So the leader is a representative of the whole team. So whatever he says in the press meet or whatever he says, it will be from the whole team's perspective. He's a reflection of whatever thought the team is having. He's the face of the team. Next is leader as a controller of internal relationship. This point again relates with the group behavior. So that means any kind of feud or any kind of internal relationship that is there between the team members, any kind of feud or any kind of problem that is going on, all those things has to be sorted and fixed by the leader itself. The leader has to take initiative to fix and sort any kind of problems that is happening and to maintain the smooth harmony in the whole team. Next is leader as an exemplar. That means the leader has to set examples for others. So leader has to be a role model for others to follow. Others in the team should be able to look at him and should be able to feel proud that he is our leader, and we have to perform like him and we have to be like him. So that kind of a role model the leader has to set. That is one another role and responsibility of a leader. Now having said that, and hoping you understood the various role of leaders, let's move on to our next topic, that is creating leaders through physical education. Okay, what do you mean by that? Now, studying about physical education, learning physical education or doing physical education activity or taking that as a subject gives you insight more on the lifestyle. It helps you to expand your mind and to look things in a different way. You will be able to lead a better life when you practice or when you do any kind of physical education activities. Now apart from the lessons that you learn from school physical education classes, when people take this as a subject for their further studies also, what will happen is that they will get more deep into the subject, and then they will end up being the coach of a big team, or they will end up being physical education teachers or lecturers or professors, or they in fact do research on that field of fitness, and in fact they do different kind of researches on that field, which helps everybody in the world to lead a better life by setting up a different techniques to maintain the fitness. So being a physical education scholar, later they become leaders in different departments, whether it's a health department, whether it's administrative department, whether it's a teaching or coaching career, wherever they go, they show that skill. Because like we learned earlier, automatically what happens when you become a sportsman, the sportsmanship spirit, the leadership skills, all the different soft skills get picked up. So automatically when that person goes ahead and takes this as a academic specialization, what happens? A leader is born in him, and a leader is made in him. It is crafted and sculpted in him. Okay, so that shows later in the field of his education, and he himself sets as an example for others to follow. So whether he is a physical education teacher, whether he is a physical education coach, or whether he is a physical education related health expert or physical education lifestyle coach, so whatever field he serves in, he acts as a leader, he serves as a leader, he holds up himself or herself as a leader and sets an example for everybody else to follow. So that's the whole concept behind creating leaders through physical education. So now I'm training you, I'm teaching you various concepts of physical education. Now sure, it will help you from the academic point of view, but all these little principles related to your fitness and related to your lifestyle, if you instill that, if you implement that in your lifestyle, it will help you for the life also. So the knowledge that you're getting today from the physical education is not only helping you academically, but also it is helping you lifestyle wise. So it is important for everybody to practice different physical education activity, and if you take a physical education and fitness related field later in the life also, it will help you to become a very good example or role model as a leader. So that's the whole concept of creating leaders through physical education. I hope you understood the whole concept of creating leaders to physical education. Let's move on to our next topic, that is meaning of adventure sports. Now what do you mean by adventure sports? What is the whole meaning behind it? What is the whole concept behind it? Why do people practice that? Now in layman's term, when we talk about that, people say adventure sports are exciting. Adventure sports kicks the adrenaline up. Adventure sports gives that hype that no other sports can give. Yes, that's true, because adventure sports is based on higher scales, higher heights and activities defying death. Okay, so all those extreme activity or extreme sports are called as adventure sports. Some of the activities, mountaineering, rock climbing, bungee jumping, paragliding, parasailing, all those different activities will come under that. All of them are equally dangerous, at the same time equally exciting. So that combination of deadly and dangerous, at the same time more exciting and adrenaline kicking, is called as adventure sports. Now I don't know whether I could frame that in a better way, but that's how you could frame adventure sports. Now adventure sports gives you excitement, at the same time it gives you chills and fear at the same time. So I hope you understood the meaning of adventure sports with that. Now let's look into some of the objectives of adventure sports. Why do people practice adventure sports, and why the concept of adventure sports is instilled in this world at its first. Okay, first is to develop self-confidence. What happens is that automatically when you do activities that is death defying and dangerous like that, and when you practice that successfully, your high peak of fear is removed and you get confidence. So once you do a deadly and dangerous adventure sports, and when you come back and people ask you to do a certain small ranged dare activity, it's a piece of cake for you, because you have defied even more deadly things. Okay, you have done more deadly and more dangerous adventure sports, so it instills the confidence in you. So self-confidence increases because of that. Second, it instills the concentration in you. So when you do any kind of adventurous activity, you focus more on that, because you know that it is deadly and dangerous, yet it is exciting. But because it is deadly and dangerous, you focus on it more and your concentration increases because of that, and that concentration that you have developed by practicing adventure sports reflects in your day-to-day activity also. Next, the third is to nurture bonding with nature. Now all the adventure sports, 99% of them are done on the open wild. That means it is done either in the forest area or in the open nature scape. It is done in the open area, and by doing that you are connecting more with the nature. You're enjoying the ambience and the environment of the nature as you are doing this dangerous activity or this exciting activity. So that also is improved. The bonding with the nature is nurtured, and your relation with the nature and the environment and your bonding with that increases when you practice adventure sports. Next, to face challenges against odd situations. That means adventure sports gives you that confidence to face any kind of situations or odd situations that you are facing in your life. Next is to use abundant energy. Automatically what happens? The energy level that you put out is maximum when you do adventure activity. Because of that excitement, because of that adrenaline kicking and whole excitement, you automatically showcase that the same energy level in your regular day activity also. So the exertion of your energy level will be more if you practice adventure sports. So that's another objective of adventure sports. Next is to provide acceleration, amusement and excitement. That is understood that any kind of adventurous activity that you do it for the excitement, you do it for the fun of it. Okay, Okay, so next is to encourage creativity. Automatically the creativity increases, because a lot of the adventure sports that are coming these days are the hybrid version of what it used to be. So back in the days, if you see certain adventure sports that used to be very plain, now you see people are modifying those adventure sports and they are adding more props to that, and they are doing very kind of different forms of that. So all those things brings up the creativity in you. Okay, so it encourages the creativity in a person. So if a para jumping is there, if you're doing in a certain way, how else could you do it? That kind of a thought process initiates when you practice adventure sports. Next is to develop mental and physical fitness. Automatically when you practice physical education, you become mentally more strong, you become physically more fit, because without that you will not be able to practice any kind of adventure sports. So next is to develop social relationship or to improve social relationship. So automatically what happens when you do any kind of adventure sports, you go to this camp, you go to this training camp before you indulge into that. So there you make a lot of friends, you meet like-minded people, because all of them are for the same purpose there. All of them are there for the same purpose. So you will be able to bond with a lot of them, because obviously people who are having the same kind of thought process for any kind of adventure activity, they all will gel well together. Okay, so that is also another objective of adventure sports, to improve the social relationship between people. Okay, so these all were the objectives of adventure sports. So these were some of the objectives of adventure sports. Now let's get into some of the adventure sports and see what all things are there. Okay, so first is rock climbing, then you have trekking, then you have river rafting, then you have mountaineering, then you have surfing, and then you have paragliding. So these are the 6 types of adventure sports that we will be studying in this chapter. There are a lot more adventure sports that are there in this world, but when you talk about the major adventure sports that are practiced commonly in the world, that are these 6 of them. Okay, what is it? Rock climbing, trekking, river rafting, mountaineering, surfing, and paragliding. Now these are the different types of adventure sports. Now many of you might have practiced some of these adventure sports, and to those who haven't practiced, I will highly recommend to go and do that, because it is exciting and at the same time it is fruitful if you remember all the objectives that we studied about adventure sports. Now having said that, hoping you understood the various kinds of adventure sports, let's move on to our next topic, that is various different types of trekking. The trekking is basically divided into 4 different categories. Now this category is based on the difficulty level of trekking. First you have easy trekking, then you have moderate trekking, then you have strenuous trekking, and then you have difficult trekking. Now trekking is basically what? Many people get it confused with mountaineering and rock climbing also. See, mountaineering is more like climbing a mountain, it is going to the highest peak. Now trekking is basically strolling through different levels of trekking. That levels could be based on the surface on which you are trekking in. So some treks will be very hard, some treks will be very easy. Based on that, these categories are given. You have easy trekking, where the surface or where the treks that is given to the participants will be less. Then you have moderate trekking, then you have strenuous tough trekking, and then you have difficult trekking. So different levels of trekkings are there. Okay, so these kind of different trekkings you could practice over the period of time, but people generally start off with easy trekking and slowly they build up their efficiency towards the difficult trekking. Okay, so these were different kind of trekkings. So different kind of trekkings will have different kind of challenges and different kind of environments, and different kind of group of people will be practicing that. Some of them who are practicing the trekking for a long period of time, they already might be practicing difficult trekking, but people who are starting off should start off with easy trekking. For all of you guys who haven't practiced trekking, I recommend you start off with easy trekking, and also when you go to a trekking camp, there also they will obviously lead you with the easy trekking first. So I hope you understood the whole concept of adventure sports and trekking. Now let's move on to some of the safety measures and procedures that you should follow to keep yourself away from any kind of injuries or accidents on field. That is, the first one that we have is warm up. Now warm up is necessary before doing any kind of physical activity. Forget about the adventure sports. Any kind of regular physical activity also you do, whether it's running, whether it's playing football, or doing any kind of strenuous activity or practicing yoga, you have to do the warm up first. Before warm up, if you do, you may get cramps or any kind of strains or sprains. That is important. Second is be hydrated. Always drinking small sips or small ounces of water is important to keep your body hydrated, because if your body is continuously losing water because of sweat, because of your strenuous activity that you're doing, you may feel little fainted. Okay, so it is important for your body to keep hydrated, because continuous drinking and consumption of water is important. Next is always wear appropriate sports gear. Now it's important for you to have proper clothing. So every sports will have certain kind of equipment and guards and certain kind of preventive measure equipment or clothing that is required. There is a recommended benchmark and standard clothing for every different sport. You have to follow that. It's important. Next is follow the rules and regulations of the games very strictly. It's important for you to follow different rules and regulations of the games, because if you don't follow the rules and regulations, that itself may put you in trouble. Okay, next is give priority to rest. Just like the workout is important for the body, just like the food is important for the body, even resting and sleeping also is important. That also should be given priority. Next, following a good diet. Important nutrients has to be given to the body. Now if you do any kind of strained activity, you will realize that you feel hungry fast, you lose calories very fast. In order to compensate that, continuous consumption of calories and good diet is important. Next is don't play when you are injured. Now it is important for you to stay away from any kind of physical activity and sports when you're injured. Anytime when you're injured, you have to give it a rest. You have to wait until your wound heals. Before that, you should not practice any sports. Now many people are excited about sports, so even with their wound, they sometimes go and play. That is very dangerous. It's important to avoid that. That is very important because that could worsen what all wound you had. It might not be complicated at this level, but later when you play it, it will make it more complicated. So that's important. Proper supervision. So whichever sports you're doing, we are talking about adventure sports. So if you're practicing adventure sports, proper supervision should be there. Now when you're talking about adventure sports, every adventure sports will have a specialist and there will be a trainer for that. You have to do the practice of that sports under that person's supervision, because if you're doing anything wrong, since you're dealing with death-defying activities there, it is important for you to do the activity in front of a supervisor, so that anything if you're doing that is dangerous, he could help you out or he could stop you from doing. Okay, so that's important. Next is proper surface of playground, court and field is required. Now people get adjusted to whatever environment they get and then they practice that. That is totally understandable given the facility that is limited to certain people. If everybody wants to practice certain sports, they will adjust with whatever they have. That is understandable, but also at the same time, if it is possible, it is recommended to use the proper playground and field for that particular sports. Next is proper environment. Obviously whatever activity, whatever physical fitness activity or adventure sports you're practicing in, that should be practiced in the proper recommended environment for that sports. You should not practice it otherwise. That is important. Proper footwear, that also is important. For every sports, again, footwear is different. That also has to be kept in mind. Next is equipment should be designed according to the age. Now different age groups will have different difficulty level or different levels of adventure sports. So based on the age also, certain equipment should be designed and should be taken up. So equipment that is designed for a smaller age person should not be taken up by a higher age person. So that also has to be kept in mind. Okay, so equipment has to be proper. The usage of equipment has to be certified. You have to check whether the equipment is properly certified. Is it the branded one? Is it the good one? You should not go for cheap materials when you go for activities which is defying death, that is adventure sports. So I hope you understood various safety measures to avoid any kind of sports injury. Now it is important for you to know this also, that all these rules and regulation doesn't only get applied to adventure sports, it is applicable to any kind of physical fitness activity or any kind of sports related activity. So all these principles you must follow. So I hope you understood the meaning of leadership, the qualities of a leader, the role of a leader, different kind of adventure sports, the meaning of that and different difficulty level, and also the safety measure that should be followed to avoid any kind of sports injury. Having said that, I'll wind up this topic over here. In the next session, we'll study about a fresh new chapter with a fresh new concept. Until then, this is me Rohit signing out. Until next time, goodbye.